Slurp-de-derp, my G's. Hope you're doing well. Ready for today's tutorial, and we're going to do it on sound design deep dive. Creative sound design. We're going to take the bases that we made yesterday, one from Vital, one from Phase Plant, into the next level, and I made a sick little groove. Not only are we going to focus on sound design of the actual bases, but we're going to add in some new samples, so we get synth and samples, best of both worlds, and then we're going to chop things around to create a wicked groove. But before we do that, I've got to give a couple of shout outs to you guys, because you've been very good and commented a lot, which is very pleasing to me. So thank you a lot to Bootney Lee Farnsworth, thanks to James Locke, big ups to Three Thieves, New Type Simon, my G, Huain Kayuma, sorry if I can't say that very well, Philip Sindelar, thank you, Digipax, big ups to you, Ellis Gribble as well, I Am Protoss, Koba, of course, Hear Me Now, Darotum, Mike Briganti, as always. Going to play your Slurp-de-derp track that you sent me by email very soon. Vertigo, Yana, Cauliflower, thank you as well, CBPM, Counthouse, Helmut, Koba, Xenopath, and I think I already said Koba, didn't I? Yeah, and Bram Tilburgs as well, and Anthony Alvarez. Thanks to you guys for writing in. I do read all of your comments and I try to reply to them whenever I can. And anyway, let's get into today's sound design breakdown. So I'm really excited about this beat, and I'm just going to play you what I've made in the last sort of 5 or 10 minutes. So we got a little bit funkier from the last tutorial yesterday, but we have used exactly the same sounds, and I can show you them here. So this is the sub bass that I started off with, just a sub bass with sine wave. That's sort of part of the composition. Then here is our Vital bass from yesterday. Okay, just taken 2 different versions of that, bounced out, and then I've taken the Phase Plant bass as well, which is here. And I've taken a couple of different chops. I've sort of made a slow one and a fast one. I'm not sure, I think I only used the slow one in the end here. So what I've done is I've bounced them out sort of how they were, and then I've moved them around a bit, and I've added in a break here. I've sort of taken my kick from before, because I like that one better, and I just put it in, like mixed it together with another break that I found. And so the break sounds like this. And yeah, just putting that in so we've got something to organize the groove with, you know? Okay, but most importantly, what I've done to improve the sound design is I've tried to use one sort of Foley sample to go with the Vital bass, and one Foley sample to go with the Phase Plant bass. So if I start with the Phase Plant bass first, if you recall from yesterday's video, the way that sound was created was by running a vocal sample into a sine wave. And so I thought, why don't I just use that vocal sample like in its purity in the track as well. So all I did was I went ahead and just bounced out a couple of one shots from the vocal sample that's within the sample folder in Phase Plant. I've got 2 versions here, like 2 different start positions of the same vocal file, and I'm just playing them on top of each other, so it's sort of doubling up. Okay, and I've just thrown that in a little group and put some delay on. So it's essentially just a vocal one shot, which is the same vocal that made the bass to begin with. And a little dual delay to give it a little bit of a nice little tail. A bit of stereo ping pong. And so that sits on top of the bass, which was made using the vocal. So it only happens once, but that's cool. So I've got my little sample that kind of relates to that bass. So using a Foley sample to relate to the bass, to work together with it. So I wanted to do the same thing for the Vital bass, and that one is here. And for some reason, like, it sounded really neuro-funky and a bit sci-fi in a way. So I thought, let's look for like a laser gun sound just for fun. So I found this in my sample folder. I don't know where it comes from. It's this sort of laser sound, which I've just processed a little bit to get it to fit, because originally it seemed a bit too high pitched. So I've made it a bit tighter with the transient shaper, give it a bit more of a kind of shorter tail, And then I've put on a pitch shifter here, taking it down in pitch. Okay, so it's just a little bit lower down. And then for this one, instead of delay, I chose convolution reverb, and I've gone for the small control room, which is one of my favorite presets on the Kilohertz Convolver, and just mix that in 33%, taken out a bit of low end, and then sidechained it a little bit to I think the snare, because it sort of was clashing a bit. And so that's the little laser, okay, and it sort of fits with the bass quite nicely, gives the vital bass a bit of an organic feeling. And that little laser sound happens here, like on the snare, and then here it will happen like a little bit later. So I'm using it in different kind of timings, you know. I sort of just moved them around a bit, you know, moved the samples around with the beat until I found a groove that kind of worked, you know. If I mute this one. But obviously, because they're sort of overlapping a bit, I did a bit of work with the compressor to let the laser hit come through a bit. So all I've done is I've sidechained the bass to the compressor. Sorry, I've sidechained the bass to the laser sound a bit, just by selecting it here and taking the threshold down a bit here. A really, really quick sidechain or release, really, really fast, ratio really high. So you can sort of hear when they're together. If I do it more extreme, all right, then obviously you don't hear the bass at all. But yeah, just letting that transient come through a bit better on the laser effect. Otherwise you didn't really hear it enough before, okay? But putting those together, I've given it a bit of a extra sound design complexity, I suppose, just from a random sample. And so the last little thing I did was a little bit of play with the this one here, which is essentially the phase plant bass. I've made another version of it, which is I just chopped part of it, put it on a new layer, and then doused it in reverb. And it's I used the convolution reverb again. I used a different preset. I used the Baptist Hall, or one of the really, really long ones, and made this sort of long, like just long reverb version of it. Okay, so it's super, super reverbed, but I've just bounced that out so I can chop it. So I've got this sort of like, yeah, really, really reverb, like big hall reverb version of the bass, but I chopped the tail off. And I've used it again here in this section, just as like a little impact part. Okay, so I like to use little bits of audio just randomly to like give accents in the groove. Okay, so that's sort of done with this bass here, obviously. Okay, so a bit random like on its own, but like when you play it with the beat and everything, it all just sort of fits together there. So that's basically it. That's basically the beat that I've come up with so far. Only a 2-bar loop, but it does have a lot of interest, and when it's repeated, it's not too boring because it's got a lot of like details and a lot of yeah. The important thing is it has a lot of details in the sound design. It didn't take too long to create, and I've just shifted the audio samples around until I found the best groove, you know. So that's the most important reason why I like to work in audio, is so I can really like use all the little different parts of audio and put them all, like keep moving them all around until I find just the best overall funk groove, you know. So also, for those of you who don't know, I do mentorship services. I do one-on-one teaching. It's the main thing that I do during the week. Pretty much have lessons almost every day. Teach from Monday to Saturday, and you can book in directly on my website if you ever want to have a one-on-one. And it can be great to just like target the areas that you're like weakest at and let me help you improve them and push you on your way on your journey, and hopefully I can give some guidance. There's a lot of information out there in the internet and a lot of it's conflicting, and sometimes it can get overly confusing, so it's good sometimes to just listen to one person and learn their technique and see if it helps you. So mentorship can be really, really helpful to just speed up your process in production, because it's a thing that takes years to get good at, but hopefully I can offer like some help with like getting you over at least the next hurdle, so you can like level up faster than I did, because it took me like 10 years to get good. Anyway, so that's basically it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video today. Make sure you like and subscribe as always, because we're going to carry on with the tutorial series tomorrow. And tomorrow we're going to get into something very, very special, which is splitting up a brake. So as you saw, I just threw in a drum brake here. But what we're going to do in the next lesson is this is like I'm doing lessons for free, isn't it? You lucky devils. What I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm going to show you how I would split up a brake. Let's say I really, really like this brake and I want to use it as like the main drums in my track. But how can I split it up and like make it into a drum group in the most cleanest and effective way, so that I can use it but also have full control of it, so it's not just on one channel. Okay, so tomorrow we're gonna like take this brake apart and like make our own group out of it, so that we can use like the cool parts of it but also have control of it for the final mix down as well. Alright my G's, I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace.